Well, folks, I know we've talked about these two pens already, probably more than you'd like to hear me talk about them, but I just wanted to share with you my joy in figuring out the problem I was having. As you remember, in Chapter 2, this cap, when I put it on the back of the pen, would fall off because it didn't fit right. And it didn't fit right because I've discovered now that the barrel, this part of the barrel, was lathed too narrowly. So the cap would fall off. So what I did is I took some, you can see here a little bit, I took some of this blue tape. Could be any color, doesn't have to be blue, but I had that around. It's sort of like masking tape, though artists use it for something. It doesn't have as, it's not as sticky, I guess. Anyway, what I did was I took a piece of it and I placed it inside of that and tamped it down, I guess stuck it down around the edges with this pen. When you jury rig, not only do you fix it with materials that you shouldn't fix it with, but you also use tools that you shouldn't use. I should have, used a special something or rather, but I don't have one of those. Instead, I have just this thing. So I stuck it in here, added another layer, and added another layer until it's snug. Now it doesn't fall off. It's a little tight here, but it still works. You can go over the top of the pen and it can screw down. So for me to fix this correctly, to fix it better, what I'm going to do is remove this tape and then apply a layer of some sort of paint, I think is what I'm going to use. Maybe that paint that you used to use when you're building plastic models, and you want to make the Messerschmitt exactly the color of Messerschmitts, and so you get out your tester, I think they were called, T-E-S-T-O-R, tester paints, little tiny jars of paint, and I'll apply a layer around the inside, the lip between the threads, which are back here in the lip. So, and then I'll let it dry, and then I'll apply another little layer. And each of these layers of paint, of course, is adding an actual layer. It's not just changing the color of the plastic, you're adding material to it. So at some point, I will build up as much as these sort of 2 layers worth of tape. And I have a micrometer, I can measure that exactly, but what fun is that? That's way more sophisticated than jury rigging. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not destroying the pen, you people out there that are pen enthusiasts. I'm not destroying it. This pen is a no-name, off-brand pen. This is not a Black Giant. This is not a Waterman Sterling Overlay safety pen. This is a no-name pen, and I'm not doing anything that I don't think that it can't be undone. If someone is offended by the paint that I'm using, they can take it off. And when they do that, they'll discover that the cap falls off every time they use it, and it drops on the floor, and you break it even further. So, yay for me, yay, I fixed it. And I fixed it in a way that makes it workable. No, it's not fixed the way it would have been in the factory. In the factory, if this left the factory, what they would, and came back and a client, customer wasn't happy with it, the factory would just take this cap or this barrel, or whichever the part was easier for them to throw away, and they would throw it away and put a new cap or barrel on. Well, that's not, I don't have that luxury, because I don't know who made this pen, for one thing, and even if I did know who made this pen, that company went bankrupt in 1929. So unless I get a time machine, unless I work on perfecting my time machine, I won't ever be able to fix this pen the right way. So I have to fix it a way, and that way is my way. See, my way. And it will work fine. It will work exactly fine. Now, I thought, well, maybe I could find a little gasket sort of washer type thing just to raise that, just put a little, let's say I had a gold washer, and I could put a little gold washer in that seam, which was a little bit wider than the rest of it. And I thought, well, maybe that could work. But I thought, well, yes, that could work, but it's not going to be as elegant as my jury rig method. See here, this pen here, see, this has a little raised piece of metal, and that's what holds the cap on. And I could do the same thing here, except I don't have a piece of metal that size. Yes, I could go to a jeweler and have them construct one for me for $95.86, but this little thing of paint is going to do exactly what I need it to do. And then both of these pens, both of them will make me happy. They make me happy now. And this nib, I was having problems with this nib yesterday. It skips. And it skips because, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little gap there. When I press down, there's more of a gap than should be, so that the capillary action doesn't quite make it all the way through. And that's partly because the nib somehow had damage to it. The nib's supposed to look like this, side view of the nib, but during some sort of trauma it received and some sort of repair work that someone had tried to do on it, there's a slight bow here, so it doesn't fit quite straight. So if I'm able to take the nib out and use my little nib block, which is around here somewhere, there it is. I use this. This is a real tool. This isn't a jury rig tool. This is a piece of bronze. And I put the nib in this little groove here, and then I use a burnisher and I shape it, and I have little tiny tweezers, and I might be able to make this so it fits tighter. Another way to do it, and in addition, I might need to do this too, is the feed. Sometimes the feeds droop a little bit, and by heating it, by applying heat and then pushing it up with your finger and letting it cool, it will change the shape of the feed, and that sometimes will fix it. But this one does look like the nib itself needs to be tweaked. It works fine if I draw a certain way. If I, as I have mentioned before many times, the pen teaches you how to draw. The pen breaks you in, not vice versa. And if I take this pen and remember that it has this issue, I will draw in a manner that I will not suffer those problems, because I'll remember I have to draw a little bit more slowly. I have to, it'll just teach me, it'll remind me that I have to draw in a certain way. I don't like to have that little factoid in my brain. I'd like to use my brain for something else, but if it means that I have to keep that information in my head to use it, I'm happy to do it. I also have in my collection of pen parts, I have dozens probably of nibs like this that are warranted number 8 sized 14 karat gold nibs, and I could probably find one that will fit that pen perfectly well, and I don't have to do anything other than change the nib. So anyway, I just wanted to share with you my joy in figuring out how to repair this correctly. What I'll do right now, though, is trim this blue off with a little scissors, or I might actually use slightly different tape rather than this tape, which I don't think is going to work all that well. Pro tip, if this is the time to mention this, every once in a while you will find a pen that has a barrel and section that are loose, and this is an example of one of them. So this plastics, sometimes these are usually made of hard rubber and these are usually made of plastic, and when you find one where the plastic has slightly enlarged itself, there's a way where you can make the thing fit without gluing it in, which is what you never want to do. And that's just to apply a piece of tape or a piece of paper into, just, adding that one little tiny bit of thickness. And this is a very perfectly good repair because you're not destroying the pen, you're making it usable, and somewhere down the line when another collector gets it, if they want to get out their lathe and then they want to do whatever they want to do it more permanently, they can. But that's, if I had to do that, I'd have to buy a lathe and learn how to use it. And, I know how to use a piece of paper or a piece of masking tape, and that will be fine. Right now this is still a little loose. When I'm drawing, I can sort of sense that it's loose, so I would probably put another little piece in. The thing you don't want to do is put a piece that's too big, and you're pressing it in and you end up cracking the barrel, so you have to do it little by little. Yes, I know, it needs a lever. The lever is broken, so I have a lever in a barrel that's broken, and I can take it out and replace the one that's missing here, and then this pen will be good to go. This nib is, while we're on the subject, this nib is sort of a Johnny one-note nib, except it has 2 notes. You can press down and get a little thicker, but this is a good pen for, not for a drawer, not for a calligrapher, but for a note taker and a writer of novels and a person who records their innermost thoughts in their diary. It's perfectly good, but it needs a lever, it needs another little piece of tape, and then it'll be tight and workable. Anyway, back to this pen. So the next time you see me using this pen, you won't see that little blue line, that thin blue line that you've heard so much about. That will be gone. And but I'm very happy. See, this is still loose. Sorry, I'm not as happy as I was a minute ago. It has to be a little bit, another little tiny layer has to be added so it's tight. But it can't be too tight so it doesn't fit here. The problem is this is thicker than this area. So it's more important that it screws on than it is to stay on the back. So it's this little delicate balance. There's not a lot of variety here in the diameters are very close, and I don't want to make this one, to make it fit on the back, it makes it tight up here. So Oh, who knows what I'm going to do. I've got other things to do. Maybe I won't bother to fix this at all. But anyway, ta-da. Relatively happy.